Former Vice President Mike Pence, they're saying that he had no authority to throw out votes when certifying the presidential election January 6, 2021. This comes ahead of former President Trump's third indictment that will take place later this afternoon in Washington, D.C. Trump fired back on Truth Social, saying that Pence's presidential campaign is not attracting crowds or enthusiasm. For more on all this and what we can expect in court today, I want to bring in Jonna Spilbor, criminal defense attorney and legal analyst. Jonna, thanks for being with us. I want to play a portion of what Jack Smith, the special counsel, said on his desire to seek a speedy trial and the presumption of innocence. Let's listen.
My office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens. In the meantime, I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law.
Why do you think, Jonna, that he emphasized that innocent until proven guilty? How often do you see a prosecutor do that?
That was nothing more than lip service. And the reason why Jack Smith said that is because he knows, like half of the country knows, that all of these myriad of indictments that are coming at the time they are coming against a former president and somebody who will likely be running for a future president is suspect. So if he can placate the American people because they must think we're stupid by saying, oh, but wait, you know what? Here's our third indictment in the last 4 months, but he's innocent until proven guilty, that's going to shut the rest of us up. And let me speak to one other thing. It's not his right to a speedy trial. The Constitution protects a defendant's right to a speedy trial. And Donald Trump may not want a speedy trial because he's going to want to get his hands on every piece of discovery and evidence in the hands of the DOJ, which is not going to be an easy task because they're not going to want to provide it. And I'm very curious to see exactly what evidence was presented to this grand jury, because at this point, enough is enough.
And one of the most high-profile witnesses you're going to get is a former vice president testifying against a former president. In this case, you've got Mike Pence on the indictment. Here's what he had to say after calling Trump's lawyers crackpot attorneys.
With regard to the substance of the indictment, I've been very clear. I had hoped it wouldn't come to this. I had hoped that this issue and the judgment of the president's actions that day would be left to the American people. But now it's been brought in a criminal indictment, and I can't assess whether or not the government has the evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what they assert in the indictment, and the president's entitled to a presumption of innocence.
If you're on the Trump legal team, is the possibility of Mike Pence testifying in a trial problematic?
Well, problematic in the sense that right now, whatever Mike Pence says, he's saying as an adversary to Donald Trump, as a competitor, as somebody who wants to be the next president, who doesn't have a chance of being the next president. So his information, his testimony would be suspect, the credibility of which would be testable and the veracity of which the same. So it's going to be hard. I don't know how useful, I guess is the point I'm trying to make, Mike Pence would be in the defense of Donald Trump. And if I can just, let me add, I don't see, Marni, many, if any, of these latest cases against Donald Trump actually making it to a jury trial. These are all attackable at the grand jury level, at the indictment level, and I hope that all of Donald Trump's attorneys, who he must have hundreds by now, are boots on the ground, gearing up to do just that. I am so sick of hearing, well, you can indict a ham sandwich. Well, darn it, we shouldn't be allowed to indict ham sandwiches. The criminal process is kicked off by an indictment. It is very important. It's a crucial ground-laying portion of our system of jurisprudence, and we should stop indicting ham sandwiches. It's not fair. It's not fair to Donald Trump, and it wouldn't be fair to me or you.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there for time. Jonna Spilbor, as always, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.